which stands for floating local option sales tax. As you recall, I brought this up at the June 4th meeting, I think it was June 4th meeting, and asked y'all to take a look at that. At the time, we were looking more or less at the difference between L-host and FLOST. And L-host is quite different than FLOST, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. But the July 3rd meeting, we decided to go ahead and move forward with the idea of a FLOST and a T-SPLOST by adding those to the referendum, per referendum at this November 5th, I think, 2026 election, third, maybe it's the 3rd.
I think so.
Yeah, November 3rd. And so, but anyway, the general election that's coming up in the fall. And so, in the meantime, there have been quite a few questions. And so, between what is a FLOST, what is a L-host, and then, of course, just repetitive questions from the past about T-SPLOST. T-SPLOST laws, all of these things are created under the Georgia General Assembly, our legislature. And as we may recall, in June, they tried to hold, I think it was June, maybe early July, but they tried to hold a special session in Atlanta for other purposes, but they had added, I think 90 plus counties and cities had requested local legislation through what's called a local act be placed before them for approval. All 90 plus were denied. All right. Probably some politics happening down there at the time, but that's between the Democrats and the Republicans at the legislature. That's not us. But bottom line is, at this point in history, there are no counties or cities that have an L-host, and it's made it. It's kind of thrown the question into limbo in Atlanta. My understanding, what I'm hearing is, will there truly ever be one? I can't answer that. That's a legislative question. And so because of that, we have pretty much chosen to move forward with FLOST, which is, again, floating local option sales tax. FLOST is also known by the Georgia Department of Revenue as a PTR lost. That means property tax relief local option sales tax. And so it's the same thing, though. If you hear FLOST and you hear PTR LOST, that is exactly the same thing that we would be voting on. The city of Trenton, at their regular meeting, went ahead and moved towards a intergovernmental agreement. And so after they've done that, then it come back to the county. For us, we have gone through versions trying to come up with a correct intergovernmental agreement. There were several out there from T-SPLOST of the past, and they have not changed a lot, but there was a few changes because every time the courts rule on a matter and or the legislature meets, they have the right to change those laws. So all those things have to be changed and updated. And so the documents are finally prepared, and we're ready to move forward with the next step, and that is the consideration for approval of the intergovernmental agreements between the county and the city. I've said this before, but if we had 4 or 5 cities, we would have to have 4 or 5 intergovernmental agreements with each city, such as Walker County. They have to work out a deal with each city. And so it's not always clear cut as far as how much the ratios are. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but the FLOST and the T-SPLOST are not quite exactly the same amount because they are doing 2 different things. T-SPLOST we know is transportation, special purpose local option sales tax for the primary purpose of paving roads, resurfacing roads in Dade County. Chattooga County recently passed this, and their primary purpose appears to be correction of 260 plus bridges that they are, some of which are condemned. And so, Andy Allen, sole commissioner down there, he's thrilled to have the availability of the extra funds in order to help, one, fix his bridges. We're in a very fortunate spot in Dade County that all of our bridges are in excellent shape. So I think our goal, and we'll talk more about this down the road, is to hopefully pave roads. That's the primary focus. The City of Trenton's portion, you know, you would have to ask the city that's listed in here. They not only would be paving roads, but I'm sure use some proceeds to match with grants for sidewalks. For instance, the sidewalk that's been proposed between Moore Funeral Home and the high school. That's been talked about a long time, that we need that, but that's a city matter, not a county matter. And the problem with that one in particular, I don't know if it's a problem, but they have to work with the state of Georgia because guess what? That's on GDOT territory over there on their right of way. So it's not as simple as just the city coming up and putting it on there. But GDOT would welcome the support, perhaps with some T-SPLOS funds for that purpose. So there was so much discussion, even amongst us as a commission, and questions that I never pretend to know the answer. If I don't have the answer, I'm going to find out the answer. I've checked with Andy Allen since he had just passed last year T-SPLOST and FLOST, and he gave me the name of Mr. Phil Sutton, and he comes highly recommended from our Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, ACCG, and of course he also has a great relationship with GMA, which is the city's version of ACCG. And so I've asked Phil to come to us today to tell us about this matter and explain, you know, the differences between FLOST and L-Host, and also in regards to T-SPLOST, some statistics that he's gathered for us. So Phil, if you'll come up and to the table and just feel free to sit there, and we're going to try to put some of this information on the screen, for everyone at home, online to see, as well as in our audience today. So Phil, if you will, just introduce yourself. And
thank you for the introduction.
Thank you.
A lot of that. I work with DCCM. It's an engineering firm, nationwide engineering firm. And one of the things that we do a lot of program management, project management for both public sector, private sector. About half our business is private sector, about half of it's public sector. I've been doing consulting on sales tax for probably 16 years. I do a lot of loss negotiations. I've done training for GMA at all 16 districts. I've done training for ACCG in all 8 of their districts. Is this working?
yeah,
Or do I need to push a button?
Is it up? Digit? Is it turned the right way?
I just heard it.
Okay.
So I'm very familiar with ACCG and GMA's various points of view on sales tax negotiations. LOST, SPLOST, FLOST, T-SPLOST.
Did you have gray hair before you started all this? That's the real question here, Phil.
No, my hair was red then. I was redheaded, it's gone white now, that's for sure. But let me get into sales. The assignment today is to talk about FLOST, floating local option sales tax, and transportation SPLOST. And I'll sort of jump into the meat of it, and please, if I say something that doesn't sound right or is confusing to you, stop me, and we'll get that fixed, okay? Caleb, if you don't mind, if you could go to the first slide. So we've got 2 different types of sales tax we're talking about today. The floating local option sales tax, which is commonly called, if you talk to the revenue department, they're going to talk about it as property tax, PTR, LOST, and you'll see that on revenue department documents. It's the same thing. It's a property tax relief loss is the way they refer to it. The question that would be on the ballot if you decide to go forward with this is a very simple 1-sentence question to the public. Shall a special 1% sales and use tax be imposed for 5 years within the special taxing district of Dade County with the proceeds exclusively used to reduce property taxes imposed by Dade County and the municipality of Trenton. That's about as simple as any sales tax referendum gets. You know, the old SPLOST referendums sometimes take up a full page. So, Caleb? The property tax, the floss comes from the comprehensive property tax, sales tax reform package, which is a much bigger act. Floss is probably the last third of this. 2/3 of it has to do with fixes to the tax assessors' codes, so that the tax assessors and the state audit department sort of line up on how the tax assessor and you provide notices to the public about the tax digest. There's an appeals process that's always been a 3-year lock on the property. If a property owner appeals it, now you have to win that appeal. Used to be that all you had to do was appeal and you'd get the lock, which seems much more fair if you're going to need to win that appeal before it locks the value. It's a fair digest review. A lot of counties were getting assessed penalties or assessed marks against them because they had to use one methodology to do their ratio study, and the state audit department was using a different methodology. Yes. It was never going to line up. So they fixed that. They also, one of the very big things that the state legislature is very proud of is they put in a floating homestead exemption, which is a new statewide, and it was an option to begin with, but it limited the increase in the homestead taxable value so that you pay less property tax going forward. And it limited it based on the CPI. Now you have a freeze and probably have had a freeze for quite a number of years, so it doesn't really affect you. And there were a lot of, and it started out as an option so that a city, county, or school board could opt out of it if they chose to. And about 2/3 of the school boards opted out, and 51 counties opted out. Well, the legislature came back the next year and opted them all back in. So that's not an option anymore. So you're eligible because of the fact that you've got a freeze and no one can opt out anymore. It also provided a new property tax cap. It used to be sales tax cap. It used to be 8% cap. Now it's a 9% cap to make room for the new FLOST. The new FLOST provides for only one thing, that's property tax relief. It's no new revenue to the local governments. It's just the benefit to the residents, to the property owners, all property owners. You know, we were talking just a moment ago about homestead exemption. A lot of folks confuse that fact that part of the bill puts in a homestead exemption limitation, but this FLOST tax reduction applies to all types of properties: business, residential, renter, agriculture, everything.
All right, I think we need to emphasize this again, just to be on the safe side.
Yes, sir.
This whole dynamic here and it being filmed and people can watch it and people being here is to educate the citizens of Dade County. So let's just emphasize that point again. If this thing gets passed and people pay an extra penny, right?
That's right.
On every dollar, it's a consumer tax.
Right.
And that money that's raised with this consumer tax will not go to the city nor the county to pay their bills.
Nope.
No.
In any way, shape, or form, right? It goes back to reducing property taxes for our citizens.
Right.
I just
Directly
wanted
back,
to
and it's the
clarify that again.
only possible purpose.
There you go. Okay, good.
So the homestead, we'll go back to the homestead exemption. That reduces or eliminates the property tax increase due to the rising value of the property. So you set a base year purchase price. Yours is a frozen one, so whenever they were able to apply for and obtain their homestead exemption, you hold their property at that level. I mean, the tax assessor may raise the property tax market value, but then they provide an exemption underneath that to reduce the millage, to reduce the taxable value of that property. So that's an exemption that you all have had in place for years. The new part of this is House Bill 581 required that anybody that didn't have a freeze cannot raise the value of the property faster than the inflation rate. And why would they do that? Well, property values over the last 15 years, if you look at North Georgia, they're growing at about 6.5%, where inflation's been between 2.5%, 3% in a big year. So over time, this will have a very strong dampening effect on homestead on the value of homesteaded properties. Okay. Caleb? Thank you. So there's a new bucket. One of the things that they tried to do with this law is sort of separate the categories more clearly in the law. You had the 6 original sales tax that were available to you. 4 were to the state, 1 was lost, and 1 was splost. Now, there are 8 counties that give their loss to the school board, and that's called an e-lost. There's only 8 counties that apply for that. Then there's 3 additional categories. One's e-splost for school capital projects, which has been in place for a number of years. There's transportation splost, and we're talking in this case about a single county T-splost. There is a regional T-splost they used to call TIA, or there could be a transit splost or a MARTA splost. But if you have one of those, then you can't have a single county. You don't have any of those, you can have a single county. And the 3rd category is what FLOST fits into. It's property tax relief. You can have a FLOST as long as you don't have an OLOST, a C-splost, or a MOST. Now, those are very specialized. The OLOST and C-splost only apply to consolidated governments, and MOST applies to the city of Atlanta's water system and the 4 cities that are connected to that. So that's the whole bucket of sales taxes that are available for the voters to vote on. So the creation of this flexible local option sales tax, and I said, if you're looking at correspondence from the Revenue Department, they will start calling it now PTRSLL, PTR lost. So what is this? What are the rules here? It's up to 1% sales and use tax dedicated to property tax relief for all properties. Again, I highlight and underline, as the Commissioner pointed out. It's exclusive use for only property tax relief. It's not a new revenue source for the county or the city. The revenue is to be shared between the city and the county based on an intergovernmental agreement, which they've negotiated some terms over the last few days. And that's one of the things that you'll be asked to approve later on. There is no excess funds allowed. So if a city, it particularly could happen in a city where they could get more sales tax revenue than they have in property tax revenue right now. It's not allowed. If that happens to happen, it probably would be by accident, but they have to then record it to the DOR on a PT 109 form, and that stays in place. It gets audited, and they can never use that money for any other purpose than property tax relief. So there's no way around it. And I've heard a lot of discussion about folks think that there's some way that you can get it, move that some additional revenue into your general fund. You just can't do it. Okay. Flossed, not that you would intend to, but that discussion just seems to pop up every once in a while. A freeze and float, you must have that freeze or floating homestead exemption in place in order to qualify for this, and of course you do. It's a 5-year term, and it can be renewed after 5 years. It does take your General Assembly, your General your legislative delegation has to take a local act back to the General Assembly and get the General Assembly to approve that local act to allow you to have another referendum. So in 5 years, you'd contact your General Assembly, say, we want a local act to allow us to go back to the voters for another referendum. So you get a new IGA at that time with the city and another referendum for the voters to approve.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So on the freeze, there are people that are not signed up for it and, or haven't signed up for it. It's not talking about, it's just talking about the county has it available.
The county has it available.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clear that.
Yeah, whether, as you know, having some experience in the tax assessor's office, that not everybody that has single-family residence has a homestead exemption. It may be a second residence for them, and they, have a primary home some other location. So you have to apply for it. You have to get the homestead exemption.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear
Yeah,
to the
that's a
public.
Great point. Let me turn over. Next page. Okay, the distribution, if the voters approve the referendum on November 3rd, this becomes effective January 1st. And you think about SPLOST and E-SPLOST, and there's an 80-day wait, or T-SPLOST, there's an 80-day wait. There's only a 50-day wait to enact this. So the first of the next quarter after 50 days, you can put that in place, and so that is January 1st. Those proceeds will start being collected on January 1st. Of course, you're always a month behind because you're going to get collections for January will come to you in February. So you're going to look at your collections on July 1st each year. This first year, you're going to have 5 months worth of collections, basically January, February through May, because you won't have your June collections until the end of July. So you'll have 5 months worth of collections, and you take whatever that amount of money is and reduce your millage rate the following tax year for that amount of money. So we'll talk about what the annualized value of this is. That first year, it's going to be a little different.
And what is the time frame and kind of the purpose of this meeting to get this finalized?
You needed documents to be signed by Friday, and it needs to be in the newspaper, advertised in your Wednesday newspaper. It needs to be in not the legal section, but the main part of the newspaper, and the ads need to be at least 30 square inches, so 5 by 6.
So
A Wednesday.
put in hopefully by Monday, and then
Be there Friday.
this Friday. Okay,
Yeah.
so everything on Friday. Okay. I just wanted to clear that up too.
Great question. That's what we've been working towards
Yes, sir.
last while. Yes. Okay, Caleb. Okay, there's 4 documents that will be presented to you that your attorneys reviewed. We prepared an intergovernmental agreement that provides the separation of revenue between the cities and counties, and it's both for T-SPLOST and FLOST. There's a resolution to authorize the chairman to sign and the mayor to sign that intergovernmental agreement, and then a county resolution to notify the Board of Elections to call for the election on November 3rd and to go into effect January 1st, 2027. Ballot wording is in the intergovernmental agreement and in the call for the election. Then the election schedules sort of to lay out what's going to happen after you vote to approve the documents. Send the advertisement to the newspaper. The newspaper will publish that on August 5th. There'll be 4 additional advertisements for the 5 weeks preceding the election. So you start off October 5th that week through October 26th. So there'll be 4 ads run beginning 5 weeks before that election. Remember early when you're talking about educating the public about this SPLOST, NT-SPLOST, early voting starts Tuesday, October 13th. So you want to be well on your way with your educational material and public discussion about this before then. As in most counties I've talked to, sometimes more than half of the voters would be voting in that voting early. The official date for the referendum is November 3rd. Once that's done, your clerk will get an affidavit from the newspaper publisher to show that the election advertisements have been done properly, and she'll put together all the documents and the advertisements, and maybe the tax commissioner, the tax assessor, or the clerk. Somebody will send that to the revenue department to get you started. The next slide is, this is sort of the linear schedule of what needs to occur. Back in April, you started discussions with the city. Now we're at the week of ending July 31st. We'll have the referendums to this. If you approve, the notice of election will go to the superintendent on Friday, as we said, add August 5th. And if the voters approve the referendum, FLOSS will start in January 2027 and it'll end December 31st, 2031. Of course, so that year before that, you're going to need to start talking to your legislature. I want to emphasize, Caleb, could you go back one? In that light blue box, it says the first rollback will be calculated based on what you've collected during 2027 by July 1st of that year. So the first year is going to be a partial rollback for a tax year of 2028. 2029 begins your first full rollback. Okay. Caleb, thank you. Okay. This shows you the effect of that the tax has. Right now, at your 9.7 millage rate for your incorporated area, that puts you, when you look at all the counties in the state of Georgia, it puts you at about the 35th percentile range. So you're down, you're one of the lower ones. And in the unincorporated millage rate, you're at the 24th percentile. You're even lower there. By putting this in place, it would drop your millage rate down to 3 mils, 3.25 mils in the incorporated area, and about 2.5 mils in the unincorporated area. That puts you down at one above the lowest in the state. The lowest in the state's Fannin County. You will be next. Yeah. So it takes you into the rarefied air of low property tax.
Right.
Okay.
And that's a plus.
That's a big plus. If you go next slide, Caleb, this is how we've proposed to split the revenue. And this is, back in 2024, the legislature came out with sort of the model distribution method. If a city decided not to join in the intergovernmental agreement, what will happen is that you'll use the property tax revenue for each jurisdiction and split up the revenue based on that property tax revenue. So that's what this chart shows. So we take the property tax revenue is made up of the digest times the millage rate equals property tax revenue. So in total for the incorporated, unincorporated, and the city of Trenton, it's it's $5.9 million. You are collecting at a rate of almost $4 million a year in sales tax. So we would presume that this is going to bring in about that $3.931 million. And you split that up between those 3 tax districts, unincorporated Dade, incorporated Dade, and Trenton, based on that percentage. And so that will give the unincorporated Dade County 1.4 million, incorporated about 400,000, City of Trenton about 187,000, which they will use to roll back your millage rate. That is a 66% reduction for everybody across the board. So
this
seems
goes-
fair.
This goes on gas as well.
Yes, sir. The revenue from gas,
So like
diesel, automotive.
T-Splosh don't go on fuel, but this will go on fuel sales.
That's right, exactly right. Okay, Caleb? Okay, so what this is what that does to the millage rates. You see your current millage rates in the first column, millage reduction. In the next column, it'll be, for unincorporated area, it'll be about 5 mils. Incorporated Dade, about 6.5. Trenton, about 3 mils. So your new millage rates you'll see in the third column there, 2.5, 3.2, 3.3 if you round it, and for Trenton, 1.5. Very, very, very low property tax millage rates. Again, it's a 66% reduction. Okay, Caleb? This shows you the same information graphically on the right-hand graph. On the left-hand graph, it shows you the savings for a property owner with a $350,000 property, whether it's a house or business, whatever. Just pick that number as probably a common household value. The taxable value on that would be $140,000. So if you were in unincorporated Dade, your property tax bill on that value property would be $1,050. Floss would reduce that by about $700 down to $353. If you were in Dade Incorporated inside the city of Trenton, currently you'd be paying about $1,358. Floss will reduce it by $902. Your new property tax rate for this value of property would be $456. Then you can see the city of Trenton goes from $360 down by $400 to a new tax of $211. The next slide will show you, of course, you take unincorporated Dade, which is Trenton, that pays tax to the county, plus Trenton, which pays tax to the city. You have to add those two things together. And so you see the benefit to the city residents of Trenton. They're getting a tax reduction from the city tax, property tax, and a reduction in county property tax. So there would go from about $2,000 for property valued at $350, taxable value of $140. It'd go from about $2,000 down $1,300 down to $667. So you can see that that's a very substantial benefit for the property owner. Okay. Caleb? So far, 45 counties have voted flossed in. The map shows you what happened in November of last year. November 4th, there was 39 counties that had it on the ballot. 4 did not pass. There's stories about each one of those 4, I could tell you. But last May, another 7 or 8 were added to that, so it takes us up to 45 counties. You can see that, especially the column for the November election, a lot of those passed very large, 80%. Most of them were at 70%. So they're passed very strong.
Chattooga is not highlighted, but it is.
But it was
should have
one of
been.
those. I don't know why it didn't show up on that map.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was really recent, wasn't it?
They should have been
It
on
was
that
November
map.
4th, 25.
Oh,
And
They
the
just
next
forgot to
next
highlight.
slide shows you the win rate for each of those jurisdictions. The first 2 out of the box were Washington County and Thomas County. They had a referendum in March 2025, so they were the very first ones out. And then you followed by the next 39, and then 7 or 8 this last term. Is there any questions about floss before we move on to T-Splost?
So what is your knowledge about Floss versus L-Host?
Okay. Well, L-Host, of course, is a homestead exemption property tax relief. That's its stated purpose. So it can dramatically reduce property tax for homesteads. In some cases, it could go down to zero. And if that happens and there's excess funds, then those would be used to reduce other property taxes. But you're definitely strongly favoring those homestead exempt properties. This current status, though, is it's can't move forward until the legislature moves it forward. About as Don was saying, 98 bills were submitted at in the June session of the General Assembly. All of those failed, every one of them. So there is no L-Host until they can get it through the legislature. Typically what happens to put in a sales tax, generally, in fact, the only way I've ever seen it done is by doing it the way Floss was done. It goes to a general referendum of Georgia, and they changed the Constitution. Now that didn't happen with L-Host. There's another way to do it, which is to allow individual counties to send in local legislation, and if the local legislation passed at 2/3, then you could put it in place. Well, that's the methodology they used. It didn't work. Now, there's discussion that they're the same communities will try it again in this next legislative session. I don't know how doing the same thing over again is going to have any different outcome.
Yeah.
So if the same thing happens again, I think eventually, if they want to really pursue that, they're probably going to have to go back to the voters throughout Georgia. But that's speculation on my part. I mean,
Right.
attorneys might have another way to do it, but
So, another look at this is when you're shopping or you're purchasing something in the area and you get a receipt, what exactly will you see on there? Like, where does this show up where you'll see that it's?
just like now, you see a 7% tax. This will be, Floss would take you to 8%, if T-Sploss would take you to 9%.
Okay, so it'll just go into the state.
Sales tax.
The state sales tax?
Yep.
Okay,
So
It's collected at the merchant from the payer, the buyer,
yes.
remitted to the Department of Revenue, I think within 10 days, 15 days, 20 days. Then the Department of Revenue holds that for us for another 30 days, and we typically get it within 60 days, right at 60 days.
So people who own their own business and have like wedding venues and things like that, it'll move that tax up, and they're not going to have to charge an extra anything. That'll be the tax for our area.
Right,
sales
the
tax.
Revenue Department will notify them that this is the new tax rate.
Yeah, okay.
Correct?
I just wanted to clear that up because
There's
I've had a couple of
sheet,
questions
there's a
about
one-page
that.
sheet that they
Yeah.
put out every quarter that says this is tax rate for each county in the state of
Yes,
Georgia.
okay.
And then there's subcategories as well.
Yeah, well, I've had several questions about that this morning, and I just wanted to make that clear because I know people are kind of concerned how they'll deal with that, so
Yeah.
I just wanted
Just
to,
like all the other
yeah, okay,
sales tax, exactly right.
thank you.
Any other
I got one.
observations
So,
before we go
I
on?
wanna go back to the $350,000 property.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying that if we add the 1 cent sales tax, it's gonna reduce the county's portion of the tax bill by roughly $700.
Right. If you're in the unincorporated
Right,
area.
unincorporated.
If you're in the incorporated area, it's that,
Over here.
that's that 902.
Collect what we think we're gonna collect. It's
Right.
based on that loss
So
collection.
basically,
Yes.
that individual that owns that home will have to spend roughly $70,000 in this county in that year to make up that reduction.
I haven't done that math.
That's what I'm trying to say is, if we do this, that person would have to spend 70,000, 1% $700, so they would have to spend
I don't
roughly
think
70,000.
that, I don't know. The people, well, it's more than individuals that are paying.
I understand
The
that.
tax
I'm just saying,
businesses are
if
paying
they're
tax.
looking at it, what they're gonna have to spend in the county,
It's very rare that,
right,
that, no,
Is what you're saying.
Yeah,
They're
the
not
but,
gonna
average person doesn't spend anywhere near $70,000
no.
in sales tax eligible expenses. So, no, I'd have to say no, that's not the number. I've seen numbers in the, $6,000, $7,000 that is sort of typical sales tax eligible expenditures.
that's what I'm saying, they're not gonna come nowhere close to that,
They're gonna
that amount of
come
money,
nowhere
unless they
close.
buy a truck, or,
And this doesn't affect trucks.
so they're
'cause
going vehicles or nothing.
No, vehicles,
That's
vehicles are,
TAVT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
still, they won't
TAVT is-
never touch it then,
yeah, they won't spend a tenth of that.
right.
And
I'm,
so,
I'm not understanding that
It's
question, I
tax shared
guess.
by visitors.
it-
Yeah,
That's
what I'm
that's
saying
why
is if I'm looking at it on the standpoint of taxes, how much do I gotta
Like,
spend in this
yeah.
county to offset that, and I'm never gonna touch that number.
yeah,
That's the
and
question,
it-
that's what I'm trying to show, is that
Yeah.
if we pass this, you're never gonna spend that much in this county to ever.
To make up the difference in floss tax.
Okay, I got
You're
you
saying
now.
You're way ahead,
I got
Bob.
you now,
Yeah.
yeah.
the only reason
Personally.
you're
I just
getting
wasn't getting that
much
question.
revenue is, the reason you're getting that much revenue is because you're on two interstates.
Fuel.
You get way more fuel tax, other taxes, lots of other taxes. I mean, your tax, what I typically see, sir, is about 30% reduction with floss. You're getting twice that. I have seen, if you go over to Dawson County, they could wipe theirs out with a floss tax. They get, because Dawsonville Outlet Mall. If you go down to Heard County, they've got the Kia plant. That's the #1 in the state. So it's those businesses, those shopping districts, that's what's so beneficial to your citizens. You're tapping into that.
And also our visitation, was it, yeah, has gone up
The
like
parks.
17%.
Yeah.
So
You've got
that's-
some big draws with the parks in the community. That's exactly right. Let's go on, Caleb, to the next slide, is transportation. We're going to talk about T-Splosh. The next one, I'll show you the language for the T-Splosh ballot is just a couple of paragraphs. It's still very simple when you compare it to what you put on the ballot for Splosh. It's shall a special 1% sales and use tax be imposed in a special tax district consisting of Dade County for a period of time not to exceed 6 years, and for the raising of an estimated amount of $23.5 million in revenue for the purpose of county and city road improvement projects consisting of road paving, patching, resurfacing, widening, and improvements of intersections, crosswalks, road drainage throughout Dade County. If county attorney wants to shorten that, you can take out those explicit purposes and just say transportation improvements, but I find a lot of governments like to be a little bit more specific about what the use is. Okay, what is a SPLOS? It's a 1%, a T-SPLOS, a 1% sales tax dedicated for transportation purposes for kinds of things I just mentioned. The state authorized this tax, the single county tax, in 2017. The legislature authorized the levy of 1% tax if approved by the voters. The county must already have a SPLOS in place, or you can't, and you cannot have a TIA, which is the regional SPLOS. The term can be for 5 years or 6 years. 6 years with an intergovernmental agreement that's signed by all the municipalities. You only have one municipality. You have to have them to sign it anyway, so you can go to 6 years. And the voters would approve this in November. If the voters approve this in November, then it would go into effect April 1st. So then, again, you have that 80-day wait in the first of the quarter. So floss starts January 1st, T-sploss starts April 1st. So, the benefit of this is it eases the property tax burden on the county. It's the value of penny and sales tax is worth about 5 mils to you, just shy of 5 mils. So it allows you to spread these funds throughout your road construction, road maintenance tasks in a fair way. Everybody that uses the roads pays for the roads. Since you have a lot of people coming in and out of the community using your roads that don't live here, hence the reason that you've got a lot more sales tax than you would normally expect based on your population. It allows you to accumulate some of those funds to help you with your road maintenance projects. I'd estimate that about 40 to 50% of your sales tax would be paid by non-residents who come here to shop and visit, second home users that aren't part of your normal everyday population or your regular population. It improves your paving cycle. We were talking to the Public Works Director yesterday, and he was telling me that the current paving cycle, they could repave everything in about 40 years. That's really not acceptable. That about 10 to 15 years is more standard. This won't get you to 10 to 15 years, but it'll get you a lot closer to what your goal would be.
I would like to add to that too, that as a commission, we could make the decision to have that go on top of that budget instead of take that budget down, so that we would be able to somewhat meet those goals of roads getting paved more often.
Right, yeah. You want to be you don't want to displace current money that you're spending for administration and that sort of thing. This is intended to be for capital projects and the equipment that you need to build roads, maintain roads, that sort of thing. So, and you're also leveraging grant funds. You can use this for your LMIG match, sidewalk matches, there's Safe Streets for All. If you were in that program, that's a grant match program that the feds would allow you to participate in if you've got the matching funds. So there's a lot of bridges are built based on the bridge grants from the state, but you have to have your match to be able to participate. Okay, Caleb, here's just a list of common, and this is in the intergovernmental agreement. These are sort of the common types of road expenses. Now, 30% of the money must be spent on STIP eligible projects. And those first 4 are STIP eligible: bridge replacements, culvert repairs, construction improvements, roads and streets, and right-of-way acquisition. So most governments that I run into, they're all going to already be spending 60, 70% or more of their funds go to STIP eligible projects. It's not a concern, but we have broken out the IGA to sort of designate that at least that amount of money is going to go to those short-term transportation improvement projects.
What did you say the minimum was on that?
30%. Okay, so next one, about 114 counties have T-sploss now. It's all the counties on the map, plus since that map was done by ACCG, there's been 4 more counties added: Chattooga, Cherokee, Crawford, and Jackson are not shaded, but should be. The revenue, I would estimate over the next 6 years that for T-sploss projects would be about $23.5 million. you might say, looking at what you're going to collect for FLOST, I'm surprised it's not a little bit higher. This is going an extra year, but we've taken 10% out of that estimate because of what you were talking about earlier. Gas tax isn't included, diesel, some direct transportation related expenses don't pay T-SPLOST. I think that's the opposite of logic, but that's
Right.
just me. Okay, next. This is the distribution method that we've suggested you consider. It's road miles. Dade County has 245 road miles. The city of Trenton has 20. You can see the proportionate share between the city and the county is 92.5% of the roads are in Dade County, 7.5% in Trenton. Also consider population, 14,000 people in the unincorporated county. In the incorporated Trenton and Dade County, it's 2,242 people. The percentage shares you see there, if you combine those two, it comes up to about a 90-10 split, if you round those numbers. And so that's the revenue that would be available, about $21 million for Dade County and about $2.5 million for the city of Trenton. Why do we pick those? In 2024, the state legislature put a rule in place that in state law that says that if you are going through this intergovernmental agreement process and you have a city that opted out, that refused to participate, but still was eligible to get the money, this is the formula you would use. And so it's sort of a default formula, and it's also very, very common. I've had some counties that I've worked with that have used just road miles. Chattooga uses just road miles. Barrow uses just road miles, but this is more common. It seemed to be more, it seemed to be received all right on the city side. Okay.
So do we share any of this money with the state?
No, sir.
It all goes to the county?
Comes to the county and you control it all.
Okay.
Absolutely. I say that 1.5% of the collections go to the state revenue department, actually. So
Yeah.
that's an administrative
That's
charge.
That's on SPLOST, that's on all.
That's not everything.
And that's already taken in, I've already taken that into account. This is the money that's likely to be coming to you.
So how much are we spending on paving with LMIG and whatever else? How much are we averaging, say, the last 2 or 3 years, roughly?
Out of blue.
It's really different every year.
Yeah,
$1.5 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say around $1 million.
yeah, it's on that SPLOST spreadsheet.
I can go grab it.
Yeah, because it's gone up too, so.
You know that breakout that you get, the tab 1,
Yeah.
it's,
Next
I
slide.
can go get it if you want me to get
Some
it.
of those are personnel costs as well, so it would,
Some of them are what?
30% of it's,
labor.
the labor,
Yeah.
fuel, stuff like that.
Okay. So when we're talking to the public, I want to emphasize this next slide, the last one in your packet there, is the county is talking about passing both FLOST and T-SPLOST. It's not a choice between the two. We're interested in both. They have very different purposes. FLOST is to roll back your property tax. T-SPLOST is to improve your roads. So T-SPLOST gives you extra penny of sales tax for road construction to maintain and improve the roadways, do grant match, get more federal money, get more state money in here, so you can bring the level of your roads up to where you want it to be. So that's sort of, I think, one of the strong pitches that we make to the public when we go out and talk to the public in our educational things. I'll also prepare for you like a trifold brochure that we can leave behind when we're holding public meetings, so you can distribute to the chamber and any public public
that would be
buildings.
great, yeah.
And I would plan to prepare like a public service announcement that maybe Don and the mayor record for the radio to, talk on a regular basis about purpose. You can't ask for the vote, and you can't say vote yes, but you can say, this is coming to the voters for your consideration. We want you to seriously consider this. So you want to be a little bit careful on how it's worded, but you do. I've always had commissioners say, well, we can't get out and promote it. Well, you can't get out and promote it, but I think you have a duty
To inform.
to educate people, to let them know this is on the ballot and why it's on the ballot.
I agree with that.
Okay, so that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well done, Phil. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
That
Yeah.
was a lot, and we appreciate you doing that for us. I knew there was a lot of questions, and he helped, like I said, Chattooga get this through or educate the people down there, and Andy had contacted him, so appreciate Andy reaching out to us to let us know about that. That's a good guy. Y'all met Andy, y'all know Andy well, so. All right,
Before he goes, I got one question.
yeah,
In this ballot language, is that your language or is that our language?
I proposed that language. It's, there's a.
The T-Splosh?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
T-Splosh.
So there's requirements of what the language must contain, but there's some, as Phil has said, particularly this last 3-4 lines here, that's probably more expansive than what we use, but that's.
My question, if we put this in there, would this cancel out some
No,
of the
no,
stuff
the-
in this?
No, it's not exclusionary. The law is the law says you can spend it on any transportation. And since, I don't want to be speaking for
That's
for
what I
the
was.
lawyer.
That was what I was
but-
looking at. This says one thing, but if you flip over here, we've got some other stuff we
Yeah,
can.
none of that's meant to be exclusionary or an entire list. So, yeah, the language, this is T-Splosh.
all right, that took a while, but I thought we needed to hear
You need,
what you're about to vote on, and any other questions from the commissioners?
No, I appreciate everybody's hard work in getting this done and letting the people make their decision on what they do, and hopefully we all can inform them to the best of our knowledge.
Yep, all right. That's what we're gonna do.
The first thing on the agenda here, as far as the consideration for approval of the intergovernmental agreement between the Dade County and the City of Trenton for transportation special purpose local option sales tax. This has been approved by the city. It is a 90-10 match. It was proposed originally at 25-75, but it has been changed to 90-10 based off the information that we received here, because
I concur with that.
it is what it is. So I have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve this T-Splosh distribution, 90 and 10.
Second.
okay. Any discussion?
I just like the way you got them to round.
I'm sorry, what?
I just like the way you got them to round the numbers.
Yeah, well,
Said, I'm gonna have
She
to
said, please.
distribute it. I'm like, don't do
And we're
0.2579.
0.2, and you kind of mess up and rounded them down.
All right, it's too much info for this discussion. All right.
That's higher math.
Yeah, that's deep math.
all right. We'll go around and call for the vote. Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Hartline,
Yes.
Mr. Pullen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Number 2 is consideration for approval of intergovernmental agreement between Dade County and the City of Trenton for a floating local option sales tax, also known as FLOST, and to the Department of Revenue as the property tax relief local option sales tax. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Hartline?
Yes.
Mr. Pullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right. Number 3 is Resolution R-40-26. It's approving and authorizing the execution of the IGA, basically allowing the chair to sign between the Dade County and the city of Trenton. It's a joint resolution from the standpoint, the city's already done that, so we're just following suit.
Yep.
Have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Hartline?
Yes.
Mr. Pullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Number 4, Resolution R-41-26 is calling and providing for an election to impose a county floating local option sales tax, also known as property tax relief local option sales tax. And this is primarily for the purpose of the Board of Elections to put that in the paper. Have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion for that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Hartline?
Yes.
Mr. Pullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Resolution R-42-26, calling and providing for an election to impose a transportation special purpose local option sales tax, known as T-Splost, I'm sorry. Have a motion to approve.
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Okay. A second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Hartline?
Yes.
Mr. Pullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right, discussion only. Number 6 is didn't want to bring, I would like to have brought this up at the regular meeting, but since we were having this meeting, time is always of the essence. And so we did calculate the millage rate based off the information received from the Board of Assessors. And we appreciate the Board of Assessors' work. There was a delay this year of about, 20 days or so because of a law change. They couldn't get the board, the assessment notice changed. And so we had to wait till the state gave us the approved assessment notice. But anyway, that took place. The calculation we had hoped would be right about, 720? So, I mean, it was a goal of about, but hopefully around 1 mil equaling 720,000. It came in at $719,023. So it's pretty close. At the current millage rate of 7.5, we are still short $170,000. At a 7.75 rate, it would give us excess funds of $10,100. Did I say that correctly? Okay.
Say that again.
7.5, we will continue to be short. We were short 300,000.
Yeah, I got that
if you
part.
recall in the budget.
Yeah, that's what we had when we, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but we reduced the millage rate, was it last year?
Yes.
From 7.75 to 7.5. If the millage rate this year was 7.75, it would collect in excess of $10,100. So it'd make up the hundreds. It'd be $180,000 additional dollars.
$310,000 more than we budgeted.
Yeah, $310,000 more than we budgeted. Basically, we talked about that at the June 30th meeting, what
Yes.
that quarter mil does, and so, anyway. We're not calling for an approval, but we just need some indication of how you want to proceed. Because we have to advertise, this, and if we advertise it wrong, then we have to start that process over, and that delays the whole, that delays tax bills.
Well,
people getting-
my discussion is, I did not want to, as everybody knows, I did not want to vote this, and I didn't vote to go down. So I am good with the 7.75.
Any other thoughts?
Just not receiving what a mill's worth I'd like to take the time to look at it, but I still think we should be able to do a 7.5 and make a balanced budget.
Okay. Anything else?
So when we talked about this, we said we could pick 200,000 out of reserves or something like that.
Yeah, $200,000 we talked about for sure was going to be used for reserve. It's really $300,000. All right. We, by laying off employee or employees, however you want to look at that, we went under a hiring freeze the next day. And so at this point, we have had a little bit of savings from each employee that we've not had here from July 1st through today, which will be, the next payroll will be through a whole month. Not everybody, I don't know how many I know we've got 2 in the jail, 2 at the shop or the road crew, 1 at the transfer station. And I can't remember if there's anybody else currently missing or not. That's not going to add up to $100,000. So I would anticipate possible, I mean, we looked, if you recall, at that budget. And I don't want to get too far out here on talking about budget because we are talking about the military, but it is related. But we looked, and if we'd had found another way, we would have cut it.
And we
So
also
it's
got
down
to
to
take,
basically cutting an employee.
we also got to take into consideration that 89 for animal control is just a guesstimate of, like, by this end of this year, end of this next year, we will know more, I would hope, where that's going to be. So then we're looking at trying to make that happen again.
And I will say, that's one thing with the budget. When we do a budget every year, it is an educated estimate of what we think it's going to be. Does it ever come in perfect? No. And we're probably going to see that for fiscal year '26. We've had some revenue that we thought that's coming in under what we thought. And, you know, if you had a crystal ball and could see the future, then we could tell exactly what it's going to be, but we don't. So I just wanted to say one thing. Part of what we have to advertise in the paper for a millage rate will say, if we accept this rate, the 7.75, what will it do to, let me see, a $100,000 home and a $300,000 home? So for a $100,000 home, accepting that 7.75 would increase it for the year $18.92. And for a $300,000 home, it would increase it by $56.76 over what the rollback rate would have been.
Right.
And that's over the rollback rate.
Yes, over the rollback rate, which
Most
is,
people-
I was going to say, the rollback rate is a 7.277, is how it calculates.
So what was the mill worth last year?
It's right here. 679.
So, but all that assumes that we're gonna vote in.
That is saying if it goes
it
to
gets voted in.
7.75, that's the difference that you would see for
Yes.
those value of homes. Yes.
Not taking into consideration of November and putting all this on the
No,
ballot.
this is a
This
separate.
is
Yeah, this
just,
is separate. And
yeah.
if you have a freeze on your home, you won't see any unless
So
you
what
have a
was,
change
so
that would make
what
that
was the
change.
mill last year? Let me write that down.
So our total digest value was $679,112,408. And so it went from 679 million to 719
Basically, we went from 680
to 720, 40,000,
Okay.
400, yeah.
And then,
great,
and
that's
that's
great.
considering,
Well, that is what it is. That's 7.5. That doesn't change.
That doesn't
based off-
change, that's just the total digest value.
Okay,
That's what
okay.
the
That's
total
what I
value.
thought,
Yes,
but-
that's what
yeah.
it went from.
Yeah, yeah.
Collection would change if you increase the millage rate.
right,
Yeah.
yep.
So on this, so let me look at something real quick. Our first meeting what is it, the 6th? Or is that, when is the first meeting in August?
I think
No, our regular meeting.
it was the 6th, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so we
And it's
really,
Thursday.
in order to meet the schedule, I think most of y'all have seen that schedule. We handed out
Yes.
a month or two ago, and it's not really changed. If we know the information today, then we can go ahead and get this information in the paper, calculate the 5-year history, advertise the first and second public hearings, issue the press release. Those are the requirements of Georgia law. And we can have that in the paper by August the 5th. Our meeting's unfortunately the 6th. If we waited to then we could advertise the next week, but then you have to wait 7 days later to have your first meeting. And so it basically would push all this, it pushes this whole schedule off another at least week, if not 14 days. It's a timing issue because we have a local paper that only runs once a week. But anyway, so, that's the reason I asked about the 7.75 versus 7.5, but any other comments on that? And then we will. And it's amazing that a quarter meal makes such a difference. I mean, we talked about that at the meeting last year when we approved the decrease, but that's where we've been. I mean, I can tell you as CFO for 18 years, we've got it down to almost an exact amount, what we needed. And that's not a great place to be. You're not growing your fund balance in that situation. You're hoping your fund balance will grow, but you can't do that many times and have a rough year in revenue collection, not just taxes, but fees and everything. And 26 has been a little tougher, but it's not been the worst out of the last 20. It's just,
Well, we can't,
inflation went up and we can't afford, insurance went up.
and we can't see the future
$410,000,
of
and that's
what's gonna
medical.
happen.
Medical insurance goes up $410,000. I mean, we are trying to have healthier employees. Patty sends out a healthy little notice every morning that we all get at 7:50. And, anyway, we do what we can do, so.
Well, the thing about it is that, other agencies, that deal with mills, if they've reduced it and gone down, now they're having a huge problem just trying to handle everything. And see, I'm well aware that everything we just discussed since, 3 o'clock is gonna be up to the voters, right? And now our job is to make sure they understand and go, and then, the folks can vote. But if it gets passed, I'll sleep well at night because that'll be a
yeah.
great reduction for everybody.
Yes.
So I'm okay, I sleep well with that. I do. I know it's up to the citizens, and that's a good thing. But if it gets voted in, right, then by all means, that can happen, and if you're just asking for what my intent would be for this year, my intent would be this year is just to keep what the proposed rate is.
Okay.
Which the 7.5.
Yes. So, because I don't want to go in and reduce it again. That's, if you wanted to check the battlefield, right? Don, you said, where are we leaning towards? So that's where I'm leaning towards.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, that's what we needed to know. So with no other advertised business, we will consider the meeting adjourned.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Caleb, since getting married, your ability to